Welcome to Nostalgicast, your weekly roundup of the best and most up-to-date nostalgic news, where we discuss the stories from a safe distance and give our thoughts. I am your host, who misses the days when kids' cereal and other snacks were loaded with sucrose. I really walked down a path on that one today. Yep. Andrew Price.
You went on a journey.
All by himself. Kelby Joseph don't wanna be all by himself anymore. And Dad Beats, a.k.a. Kirkman Shaw.
Dad Beats!
Kelby, do you know what song he was singing? I'm just curious. Based on.
Of course.
Do you?
Come, Kirk.
I don't know. It's an old-ass song.
Talk to me nice,
Celine
Kirk.
Dion?
Talk to me nice, Kirk. Come on,
well,
man.
Celine Dion.
I don't want to be all by myself.
Yeah, Kelby. Hit it. It's not a Celine Dion song.
I know. That was the joke. I was saying.
Yeah.
She covered it.
She covered it. Mr. Eric Carmen from Cleveland, Ohio. Eric.
Go ahead, Cleveland. That's one for them.
Representing one really schmaltzy song.
Some of you younger people might be more familiar with the Eric Carmen version of the song from Disney.
Celine Dion.
What?
You just said Eric Carmen.
No, you might I heard the Celine Dion version first because my mom was a huge Celine Dion fan. And then I became familiar with the other song later, but younger kids might actually be more likely to be familiar with the original version because it was in Disney's Under Wraps, the Disney original film.
I don't even know that film. What is Disney Under Wraps?
It was a movie in the late 90s about a mummy that comes back to life, and these kids find it. It's basically like it's the same as any of those types of movies. E.T., Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, okay.
Encino Man. It's like some kind of creature or like ancient thing comes back to life, and then a bunch of kids like take it under their wing and have a magical adventure. It was a Disney original movie, and there was this repeating theme to it where the mummy was like lonely because its like wife, or it's from like ancient Egypt, was buried as a mummy, and he missed her, and so at some point in the beginning of the movie, that song comes on a radio, and he loves the song, and then anytime he hears the song, he like gets really emotional, and then at the end of the movie, he gets reunited with the mummy woman. But that song just plays like 5 times throughout that entire movie.
That sounds like no Harry and the Hendersons.
It's a Disney original movie. They're a totally different vibe. It's like a made for TV movie with a very specific like vibe to it.
The girl who was in that movie, who was also in True Confessions, if you remember that movie.
Yeah, I do.
She's no longer an actress. She's a lawyer now.
Oh, really?
Good for her.
Yeah, she was. Atlanta. I remember her well. She was one of those. She's one of those like kid specifically female kid actors who is like very like, I'm a 30-year-old in a 12-year-old's body, just like a very like kind of like precocious adult type person.
Makes sense why she's a lawyer now.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's going on, guys? How's it been going? We're down one Palo. Tyler couldn't be on the show because he's delivering hot meals to coronavirus children.
Yes. God bless him.
No, he's
coronavirus children.
Yes.
I mean, let's just call him out. Let's put him on blast. He's not here because he doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
That's really why.
100%.
That's what he told me.
For this episode, we should clarify.
Yeah.
He said it's not his vibe.
Yeah. He says he's not feeling it today.
He had to celebrate his girlfriend's birthday.
Bullshit.
If I ever seen a lie.
Right?
Yeah. If it was my birthday and my significant other didn't do Nostalgicast, I'd be mad.
Yeah. It was my birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. What, how selfish can you be?
Right.
You just had a birthday.
And
he didn't say a thing.
Nope.
This should have been his moment.
Yep.
But he celebrates his girlfriend's birthday?
Over mine?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
God, he's a piece of shit.
Happy
selfish.
birthday, Kirk. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I already gave
Younger than ever.
I gave Kirk the best birthday present he could ever have.
He did. That sounded weird, but I know what you mean, and it was
Yeah.
What did he give you?
Shockingly.
Let's just say social distancing rules were not were not respected.
If I could put it in terms that no one would understand, I would say salad milkies.
Kirk, blink twice if you need some cranberry juice. Yeah, I'll be right there. Oh, boy.
There is a burn.
All right.
I introduced him to a musical experience.
I'm going to send it to you, Kelby. Right up my alley. You might already know the guy, but afterwards I'll slack it to you. It's fantastic.
He's
Wonderful.
He's not super well known at all. He literally his biggest claim to fame is that Drake sampled one of his songs on If You're Reading This It's Too Late on the opening track. So his name is his name is Gabriel Garzon Montano. And he in the opening track of If You're Reading This Is Too Late, the sample, the rock me real slowly, I'm just like a baby, I'm moving over.
Oh, at the end.
Yeah,
that's fire. Yeah.
So that's him, and that was from an EP that he put out back in
2017, I think it said.
Yeah, and
that's impossible.
No, yeah, the EP he did was earlier than that. The EP was like
it was the most recent song he did.
If you're reading this, It's Too Late came out in 2015, and it came out 2014 or 2015 or whatever, and that was all the music he had. He just had this 4-song EP. That was just and for years that's all he had. And then in 2017 he put out an actual album, and he just has the one album. So he has a 4-song EP and then a full album, and that's it. And I haven't really heard I haven't heard him get bigger. I haven't seen anything more from him. The way that I discovered him was I was listening to a Sirius XM station, and it was a station being hosted by the guys from the Black Keys. They have their own hour-long block on one of the indie radio stations, and they were like, this guy was the guy that did this song that Drake sampled, and then they played the song, and then I looked into it. So he's really kind of under the radar, but he's great.
And I love that. By the way, Legend is an underrated classic song. Underrated.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's just a great mixtape or whatever you call it.
Something, a project, an album. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's an album. I mean, the lines between what is a mixtape and what is an album are just so blurred that it's just people call it a mixtape whenever they just don't want to do too much PR around it. That's pretty much the difference. Is I don't want to do a promotional tour for this.
He's not gonna do PR anyways. It's not like he's going down to the Breakfast Club or going down to Hot 97. He just puts a really obscure Instagram video out, and that's his promotion. But great song. Great sample as well. So if that's what you're listening to, Kirk, you're in the fold, dude.
Yeah,
You're-
it's
nobody's blocking your coins today.
Nah, there's nobody
It's-
blocking your
no.
coin.
No,
but yeah,
it's
check it
right in
out.
my vibe.
Gabriel Garzon Montano, or Montano or whatever. I've never heard it spoken out loud. But he has a great EP, a 4-song EP, and then he has an album called Jardine. It's great.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah. What do you guys
That's
up to?
it. That's all I have. That's my big thing. That's where I live.
I was telling Kirk about my adventures watching Disney movies that I'd never seen before. So I watched Tangled, Moana, Brave, and I'm halfway through Princess and the Frog.
Tangled and Moana, solid.
I like Tangled a lot.
Brave is I just did not care for Brave.
Agree. I agree.
And
It's the accents, huh? And the weird story.
The accents.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. I wasn't into the story. I wasn't into the story. I just wasn't into the story.
I don't when they changed to a bear, I was like, nah, now it's gonna be a bear story.
And also there was and there was also
Not a bear
the other
story.
Disney movie about somebody turning into a bear.
Which one was that? Oh, Brother Bear?
Yeah, just like we got that one.
He was already a bear. I don't know. Brave is cool. I understand why he got the Oscar that year because the animation in it was spectacular. But Tangled is so good. Like it's so good. I don't even know why it's so good, but it's so good. Moana,
It's a great story.
I didn't love the voices in Moana. It seems like it didn't fit the characters.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I liked him a lot. And the cool thing about Moana is that Moana, it takes place in the Pacific Island, and then all of the voice actors are all Pacific Islanders or from Aboriginal heritage.
I thought both of those were better than Brave.
Princess and the
Yeah.
Frog?
Oh yeah, Princess and the Frog too. All those are better than Brave.
Yeah, Princess and the Frog is pretty good. In the context of being the final 2D animated Disney movie, it's not the greatest send-off, but it's still pretty good.
It's very charming.
Yeah.
I've seen half of it. It's very charming and just very light and nice. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish it later on today. But I'm enjoying it. I could see why people stand these Disney movies hard because I've never seen them.
Yeah, I loved. I saw Moana and Frozen before I had kids, and I liked them both a lot.
I never saw Frozen.
Now I'm a little tired of them, but yeah. So before we get into these stories, I wanted to go over the ever evolving epic story of the coronavirus affecting the movie industry. So last episode we talked about how, over the last several episodes we've talked about, how all the movie theaters have closed and studios are starting to release things digitally. And then last episode we talked about how Georgia was planning on reopening theaters a little earlier than people were recommending. And ultimately we talked about, and I believe is, pretty much the right perspective on it. Whatever you believe about the quarantine or whether or not we should or shouldn't be doing it, I strongly believe that even if movie theaters open up, nobody's going to really go to them because number one, there's no movies. Number two, people are still a little scared. I just don't think that it's like, okay, open them up and people are still not going to go. And so recently, pretty much fairly quickly after we did the episode, AMC, which is the biggest movie theater chain in the world, announced that they will not reopen their theaters, even if they're allowed to, until they've decided that it's a right time. So as we speak, movie theaters are opening back up in the state of Georgia. Georgia is issuing strict rules about reopening and what they need to do in terms of cleaning and social distancing rules and all that. But AMC said, like, we're still not going to reopen, even if we're allowed to. And so, what was that?
I have a sneaky suspicion that AMC is not.
That was sneaky. You couldn't even say it. It was so sneaky.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they're not opening for a different reason.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, you're right. You're definitely right. I mean, I think there's probably some truth in it. I think that what they're saying in some way is true on a surface level, but there's other things going on where it's just like they are, AMC is just not in the best financial place right now. And I'm sure that this is just the tip of the iceberg of like other really bad problems going on behind the scenes with their company. 100%.
So it's not completely altruistic of like, we need to save ourselves and protect the people. It's
Heck no, they're a business. Yeah, we're broke, and if we open back up and there's nobody coming to watch the movies and we have to pay all these employees to be here, we're gonna be broker faster. So no, I don't think that they care about anybody in the sense of it's unsafe and whatever. No, they're just not gonna make any money.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And while I was gonna read sort of what their statement was, which is them basically saying like, as we plan our reopening, the health and safety of our guests and associates is our absolute highest priority. To be able to open, we also need a line of sight into a regular schedule of new theatrical blockbusters to get people truly excited about returning to their favorite movie theaters. So they kind of like slightly show their hand there, where they say that they're not going to reopen because of the safety concerns and the priority of their guest safety. But then they also separately say, we need to see that there are movies in the pipeline that are going to bring in people. So they kind of like subtly show their hand that they're just nervous to reopen, because if they reopen, like Kelby said, and nobody comes, and even if they've paid everybody, all these employees they bring back in, even if they pay them for like a week, that could possibly, in the words of Joe Exotic, they'll never financially recover from this.
That's my guy.
Yeah, and so I think that's definitely the issue, is just like, and it's not even necessarily bad. I mean, it's smart. It's like, okay, you're saying we can reopen. Where are the movies though? Yeah. Like, well, like what? Like,
what are we showing?
Yeah. Why would we reopen? There's no movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to see. Going even into it now, I really want to see Christopher Nolan's Tenet. But our movie theaters are like, yeah, let's open up for that. That's a big movie.
Not that movie alone, definitely. Yeah. But even that movie's not slated to come out until July.
Yeah. I mean, you need bigger movies. Even if things are fine, you still need bigger movies for people to go, oh, wow, well, I really want to see that in the theater. If things are safe, I'll go see it now because it's a huge movie I want to see.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing right now coming out or hyped that could be that one linchpin movie to like bring everybody back out.
Yeah. Except Time Lock.
Yeah. Like in a hypothetical scenario, if they had In-Game locked and loaded.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, movie theaters are open next week. And then 2 days later, In-Game is coming out. Then they could bring some people out.
They would immediately be like, let's get it ready. Let's get it going. Yeah, 100%.
Any of those movies, Endgame, Black Panther, any of those big movies. DC got to sit down for this one though. They can't come out with a movie for
Yeah,
a while.
no.
Relax. Yeah, they gotta relax. We really like. As much as I want to see Woman Wonder 18.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman 1884. They gotta relax.
1984.
1984. That movie can come out next year. They could change.
Kelby, you have to stop buying your movies off of the back of a truck in a Walmart parking lot.
I don't. I buy it at the barbershop.
Oh.
That was the weirdest title of a movie ever. Woman Wonder 1884.
Woman Wonder 1884 is great.
They're not even allowed to wonder in 1884.
Yeah.
That's what the movie's about. It's about a woman just wondering about something, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness,
what are you doing?" She gets a
balls.
scarlet W.
She has
put
the
on
demon in her."
Quick, drown her. That's the movie.
So and this next story is dovetailing off of that. We talked about this once again over the last couple episodes. People bringing movies to streaming early, or in some rare situations, just releasing a movie streaming only. And I think at this point, the only movie that has skipped the theater entirely and come to streaming is Trolls World Tour from Universal. So AMC just released a statement, and they've basically announced that they will no longer show Universal films at all
for the foreseeable future. They don't even give a timeline. They're like,
yeah, they don't give a time.
forever.
They're basically just saying we're not going to show Universal movies. They don't say ever again, but they're just kind of leaving. They're just kind of making an open-ended statement. And the reason for that is because Universal recently came out and said they gave numbers and a statement about the performance of Trolls World Tour. And what they basically said was, in the first 3 weeks of release, the movie made $100 million streaming exclusively, which is compared to the first Trolls movie. In the first 3 weeks, it made $116 million at the theater. And its lifetime gross in the U.S. and Canada for movie theaters was $153 million, and globally it was $347 million. So they basically put these numbers out, and we're like, wasn't too far off from what we made in the theater. And AMC and NATO, the National Associated Theater Organization, I forget what the specific thing is that it stands for, they did not take a liking to this. And they basically saw it as like a slap in the face and a rebuke of movie theaters and a violation of the good faith partnership between studios and exhibitors. And because basically how it works is there's a window agreement where movie studios agree to not release their movies streaming for a certain amount of time, and while the movie is in theaters, and then after that embargo is up, then they can release it streaming. And that's just been an established thing, since the days of home video release. There's always been this windowed release agreement, and the agreement has become more and more important because back in the day, the studios would never just release a movie on video first, or because they could just make so much more money from the theater at the time. But as time has gone on, and as movies have as theaters have like made less and less money, and it's been harder and harder to get people to come out to the theater, that embargo has become very crucial to their business model. Like, please do not release this on streaming early. So they saw this as just a violation of that entire thing. And not only a violation of it for this one specific movie, but a criminal exhibition of a new business model that could be mass adopted that would cut movie theaters out of the equation. So on the strength of that, they said we're no longer, they played their one ace in the hole of we're not going to show your movies anymore. So if anybody else out there releases a movie streaming first, we're not going to show your movies either. Now, there are two things to this.
Hit me with the caveats.
Not necessarily caveats, but there are two little details to this. Number one, so basically after this statement was released, Universal came back. Universal hit them with the caveats. And they said, you completely misconstrued what we said. We weren't saying that we were moving away from we weren't abandoning movie theaters. We were just talking about this one specific thing where we've released this in response to this national health crisis, where we've provided entertainment to families while they're sheltering at home and unable to go to the movie theater. And we're just sharing a case study of how well that did. And we're also saying that, in the future, we will consider this and, apply this new approach to distribution when it makes sense and is appropriate. But, we still value the we still value the movie theater as part of our distribution model. Now, so here's the two things. The first thing is, it doesn't really make sense to me for AMC to have this reaction and to think that Universal is trying to cut movie theaters out of the equation, because Trolls World Tour made the amount of money it did during a national pandemic where everybody is sheltering at home and movie theaters aren't open. There's no guaranteeing that if all movie theaters were open, if everything was quote-unquote back to normal, people were going outside again, people weren't scared of going into places anymore, maybe a year from now or late or longer even, there's no guaranteeing that a movie released digitally would make that amount of money. So, they're talking about a case study that happened during a very specific moment in time when the script is flipped. Everything's different. So I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to get scared about what that means for the future, because things are never going to be like this again. There's never going to be a situation again after, a certain amount of time has passed to create the conditions where everybody is stuck inside of their houses. They need entertainment. They can't go anywhere. And so everybody just buys this movie. So, it just seems like a bit of an overreaction to have that kind of reaction to this case study or Universal saying this. But the second thing is, no, I think I've said this before on the podcast, and I think we even talked about this with Mike whenever he was on talking about movie theater stuff, but exhibitors have very little power in this in movie distribution. They have very little sway. It's the whole reason why NATO exists. NATO is essentially their unionized organization for protecting them, specifically because they have very little power or sway in the overall movie distribution pipeline. Similar to how unions protect workers, whether it's like the Screenwriters Guild or the Actors Guild or the Directors Guild, protecting those individual writers, actors, and directors, or a grocery store union protecting grocery store employees. NATO exists to protect movie theaters specifically because they have very little power in the equation, and they can be taken advantage of, and they can be screwed over by the other players in the pipeline that have all of the power, which are studios, distributors, and the consumer. So, saying this really, it just kind of means nothing. It's like, okay, you're not going to play our movies anymore. Sure, we'll see if you hold to that whenever Fast and the Furious 9 comes out.
That's what I was thinking. It's such a veiled threat. We're like, well, we're not doing Universal movies, but if they come up with a banger, they'll be like, oh, well, maybe we misspoke, and yeah, that new Fast Furious movie, sure, that will be the exception.
Mm-hmm.
But all the others we're really mad about. But also, I mean, are they going to do that to every studio? Like, if Disney's like going to stream early, they're going to be like, well, Disney, you're banned too. That's not going to happen.
Here's the thing that I see it a totally different way. Universal instantly responds to AMC because, honestly, Trolls 2 will never, ever make as much money as Trolls 1 because it went out on streaming first. It never, ever will. The institution of theaters is more important in the distribution model than people believe. I actually, when I saw this story, I went out and I looked at revenue for theaters for the past 10 years. In the past 5 years, something has changed to where they were making X amount of dollars, and the dollars have doubled and tripled in revenue over the past 5 years. That is to say, streaming is not necessarily as great as people think it is. It's like video. It's like home video, where the revenue that they will make from the theaters is just the first leg. And then the reason why they're waiting that time to get onto a streaming platform or to put it in Redbox or whatever they decide to do is another opportunity for them to make more money on the same project. So because it came out on streaming first, they shot themselves in the leg, because now no one is missing the movie. Everyone owns it right off the bat. When you're watching it in a movie theater, you're renting it for 2 hours, and then now you have to wait to pay for it again. There's no way ever will this second movie make as much money. So I think AMC, knowing that how important they are, just going based off of revenue in the past 5 years of these major studios realizing that no, movie theaters are not dying. They're not dying at all. In fact, they're thriving. They're bigger than they've been in the past 30 years. They're making more money.
I don't disagree with you.
Now they're putting out that threat because if Fast 9, for example, a $1 billion project, a 1-point-something billion dollar project, decides to go to streaming first, that movie will only make $300 million. That movie will make only max $400 million, and they're throwing that opportunity away by putting out those numbers. And it may have just been like, oh, this is just a case study, and AMC may be overreacting, but it does make it seem like they're just trying to say like, oh, well, we could just stream and that's it. We never have to go to theaters. But the honest truth is, if you go straight to streaming, you will make less money. You just will.
I don't disagree with you. I think that that's true. And Universal's response to AMC may have even been an element of panic of like, oh shit, we don't want to like fuck up this relationship. But here's the covs.
Hit me with the cobs.
So, number one, even if movie theaters are making a ton of money, or more money than they have made in previous times, if movie theaters were making a lot of money and then they started to decline as home video and then streaming and started to eat a little bit of the market share, and then now it's been on a little bit of the incline. Even if that's the case, the relationship between movie studios and movie theaters, the exhibitors, is not a symbiotic relationship. It's not a mutually it's not a mutually dependent relationship. Movie studios, they have not to say that they wouldn't be largely crippled by cutting movie theaters out of the equation, but they have other means of making money, and if they had to adapt, they could adapt. If hypothetically this is just how things are for the rest of our lives, if this is just the apocalypse and we just have to stay in our houses forever, movie studios could start making animated movies only, and they could pipe them into our houses via. I'm just obviously there's gaps in what I'm saying that don't make sense, but I'm just speaking hypothetically. Whereas movie theaters are 100% solely dependent on movie studios to provide the content. This sounds negative. I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but it's a parasitic relationship. They need the studios to survive. The studios don't necessarily need the movie theaters to survive. They like you said, I agree with you that they would make less money and it could possibly be very bad for them. But it's not a completely symbiotic relationship. It's not a mutually dependent relationship. So that being said, I do think that despite what AMC says, whatever threats that they make, like I said before, whenever Fast and the Furious 9 comes out, they're not turning that down.
Yeah, why would they turn that down on principle?
They're not turning down Fast 9. And especially in the scenario where maybe other studios, like we talked about the story last week about Warner Brothers and how they were considering doing some streaming only stuff. So what, they're going to ban Warner Brothers too? What happens if every studio that exists releases one or two movies streaming only during the pandemic, during the quarantine? They're gonna then what? They're gonna ban all of them? What are they gonna do? Yeah. This is a muscle flex where they're trying to make Universal an example and basically say, we did this to Universal, so if you we'll do this to you if you do the same thing. But if all of the studios just all got together and said, let's all release one movie streaming first, they can't ban them all because then there's no movies. They have nothing to show. So I don't disagree with you. I don't think that the studios would get by fine without theaters and they could just go 100% streaming and just cut the movie theater experience out of the equation. Nor do I want that to happen. I love going to the movie theater. But I do find this to be somewhat of an unrealistic, impractical threat. And I do still hold the opinion that exhibitors have very little power in the movie distribution pipeline. And, that's the whole kind of reason why they have a union, basically, is to protect them from being screwed over and exploited. Mm-hmm. But I do agree, and I think that if nothing else, sharing these numbers about Trolls World Tour, it's really just like, hey, look, we're not totally screwed. But I don't think that it was an example of how they don't need movie theaters and that movie theaters could be cut out of the equation and studios would be fine.
Yeah, it was more of a, hey, look, we didn't fuck up. We didn't do too bad. Look at this. As opposed to any sort of flex by Universal. Right.
Yeah. But that being said, recently, after the statement was released and Universal sort of had the response, Regal Cinemas, or more specifically Cineworld, which is the overarching conglomerate that owns the Regal Cinemas chain, came out with a kind of more measured response. So they basically they spoke out in solidarity with AMC, but they didn't say oh, we're banning Universal movies entirely. What they said was they said that Universal's what they did and what they said was inappropriate and violates the trust and partnership between studios and exhibitors. And they said that they would not. And then they basically, instead of saying, and we're banning all Universal movies, we're not going to play their movies anymore. What they said instead was, we will not show movies that violate our windowed policy, where it's released, early on streaming. So they went as far as showing solidarity for AMC, but they did not say we are banning Universal movies. They made clear we will show any movie from any studio as long as they respect the windowed policy of waiting X amount of time before releasing it digitally.
It doesn't feel like they're standing beside AMC, more like they're standing 6 feet away from AMC.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
they're really not doing. Really behind them that much.
Yeah, they're just saying like we stand behind the sentiment of what AMC has an issue with, but
we're good.
Fast 9, we'll have it. We'll have it.
Yes, please.
As long as you don't release it digitally early, we're good.
We're good.
And then the last thing, I find this very funny. So we've talked about this a lot on the show, especially in the early days of the show. We were talking about streaming services a lot more. And we talked about how, Martin Scorsese said that like stuff like Marvel movies aren't real movies and that like movies, need to be released in theaters. And Steven Spielberg said that streaming movies should not be considered for Oscars. And there's a lot of debate about that. And then Oscars have historically not accepted movies that are streaming. And like any movie that's from a streaming service that wants to be considered for an Oscar has to exhibit their movie in a theater in order to be considered. So there's been like this whole debate, this like sort of purity test debate of like what's considered real cinema and, what can be considered for an Oscar, and are streaming service movies that never see a movie theater, are they considered real movies, and all these things. So coronavirus has just forced the hand of that debate. So it was recently announced by the Oscars that they will that streaming movies will be all eligible for Oscars for the foreseeable future, not permanently, but for the time being, streaming movies are now eligible for Oscars. And the reason for that is because as time moves forward and the uncertainty of movie theaters reopening continues, they kind of have to. Like, what do you like?
Yeah, what's there going to be?
Yeah, and it's funny to me because similar to the movie theater situation, like. So basically, like what I was talking about, my argument about movie theaters that we were just saying, that they're saying this now, AMC is saying this now, but later on down the line when Fast 9 comes out, I think that they're going to backpedal, and I think that they're going to be like, we want that. We're seeing that happen now with this, and it's very funny to me because the Oscars have held strong to this idea that a movie needs to be played in a theater to be considered for an Oscar. And they've held that purist standpoint, and they've turned up their noses at streaming services and the movies that they produce, and they've said no, your movie will not be considered unless it's been played in a theater. And now that the pandemic is happening, and there's been this nationwide shutdown, and movie theaters aren't open. Now the Oscars are basically being like, wait a minute, if we don't consider streaming movies for Oscars, then we can't have Oscars. We don't have anything. We won't
have a show.
We won't have a show to do. Oh yes. You're fine. Yeah. You're fine. Streaming. So this is sort of like the thing happening, the payoff happening, where the organization is backpedaling on their previous stance because their hand is forced, because they're being existentially challenged by it. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, what's going to happen later on down the line with movie theaters or with AMC, where the Oscars are like, never mind.
Yeah. Forget we said that.
Yeah. because if they don't allow streaming only movies to be considered for Oscars, they don't have a show anymore now.
Yeah,
which is funny.
It seems a little early for them to make that choice, because for the most part, movies that are nominated for Oscars and things like that don't come out until like September. So they're probably just thinking that there are going to be those strays that come out from now to August or so. Movies that have, typically those kind of movies that get nominated are for like technical things like sound or editing or something like that. But I guess it makes sense. But it does feel a little early for them to make that to make that choice. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to get into some lighter news, listeners beware, you're in for a scare. Blah 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 blah. Goosebumps live action TV series is in the works. A live action television series based on the incredibly popular Goosebumps book series is officially in the works. It was revealed today. Goosebumps movie producer Neil H. Moritz and Sony Pictures Television are teaming up with Scholastic Entertainment in order to develop the series. It's currently unclear how involved author R.L. Stine will be in the series or what it means for any potential movie sequel. So they're making a Goosebumps show. It's in development. Obviously, we really don't know when this will come to fruition or go into production, considering the current circumstances. But it's in development, and it's coming from the team that basically produced the movies, the movies that came out. I think in 2015 the first one came out, and then the second one came out a couple years, or maybe last year it came out. I forget exactly.
Were they both Jack Black?
Yeah, they were in the movies. Jack Black plays R.L. Stine.
Okay. Did you see him?
I saw the first one. I still haven't seen the second one. I thought this first one was really good. And I loved Goosebumps when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I've showed you guys before. I dug up my Goosebumps collection from my parents' garage. I brought it into the office. I have pretty much every book in the series. I even have like 5 copies of certain books for some reason. I thought the movies were good. And I loved the show. The show is very cheesy. It's kind of like so bad it's good. But I loved it a lot when I was a kid. And when they put it on Netflix, I rewatched it with my friends, and I loved it all over again for completely different reasons because it's so weird and cheesy. But yeah, they're coming out with a new show, new live action series. The first show was like a anthology series where every episode was just a different story that was based off of the books and even some original stories.
That's right.
And that's what this new show will be as well, probably. But it could also go the other way. There's no details on what the show actually is, but it could go the other way because the movies are basically completely different. The movies are not like, here's one of the books developed into a full movie. The movies are like these meta... it's this like meta story where it's about the real world that we live in, and where R.L. Stine is an author who wrote the books, but he has a dark secret that he has this special power. So the author of the books, R.L. Stine, is a character in the movie, and he's played by Jack Black, but he has a dark secret that he has this special power where he can bring things into reality by imagining them. So all of the books that he's written he's brought the characters into the world, and then he's trapped them inside of the books. And then in the first movie, the main character, the kid, he like releases them all. So all of the Goosebumps book characters from the books get released into the real world, and they have to stop them and put them back in the books. I don't know what the second one is about. It's probably something similar. But yeah, the show could be based on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would kind of more hope for it being the anthology series because I love anthology series. But the other way could be cool too.
And there's so many stories they could have. It's like endless supply of content.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they could make it something like American Horror Story, I would like that. Where it has some kind of like creepier, somewhat more serious undertone, that would be cool. But if it's just like goofy, like the '90s or was it early 2000 or '90s show?
It was '90s. It was like
yeah. I remember watching that and be like, this is cool for what it is, but nah.
Young Kelby throwing shade on it even back then.
Yeah, I was just like, I'll watch it, but today's a different beast. You even see when we watched the Saved by the Bell thing, it's modernized for what we expect today, So
yeah.
I would like to see something like that where they take a twist on it and they make it something that we really wouldn't expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm pretty. I'd love to see that coming out. I mean, I would definitely watch it with my son, and the prospect of that is pretty exciting.
Not if Lady Gaga's doing a whole season. I don't know about that.
Lady Gaga on Goosebumps.
Oh yeah. She's
American Horror Story.
Every season they just have the same. They just have all the same actors from American Horror Story.
I love that angle.
Really quick story. There's not a lot of details to it, but I just thought it was amusing. So they're using Tom Hanks' blood to develop a coronavirus vaccine.
Goddamn right they are. They would do it even if he didn't have the corona, because Tom Hanks' blood is sacred milk.
Yes, just slurp it up. They don't even have to make a vaccine out of it. You just drink Tom Hanks's blood, and you'll just be cured of anything.
Yeah, you'll be happy.
That's not the vibe, man. They should have used Idris.
Wait, she used whose?
Idris Elba.
Oh
yeah. I mean,
he had the Ronies too. Why not? What's the problem?
Forgot that he had that.
I mean, they could literally use anybody's blood. I think this was more of a kind of fun, nerdy publicity stunt. Because all they just have to find somebody who has contracted coronavirus and then recovered from it. They have antibodies in their bloodstream. They've basically created an immunity to it. Not an immunity where they can't get it again, but their DNA has created antibodies that can fight coronavirus. So they basically cloned little soldiers that know how to fight that specific virus. They have, your blood has all these soldiers, but whenever coronavirus comes in, the soldiers are like, I don't know how to fucking fight this guy. Mm-hmm. Look at that dude. He's got like a million little things come out of his head. I don't know what to do with that. The fuck is that shit? I got this sword. I can kill this, this fucking if you get like a cut, I can stop that. But I don't know. I don't even know what to do with this shit. And then your body's like, these guys are useless. We got to train new soldiers. So they start cloning and training all these little soldiers. And these little soldiers are like, listen, I got you, fam. I got these guys. I got their number. I understand the little weird things on their heads. I know exactly what to do. And so now your body's got all these little guys in you. And so scientists will then take those guys and be like, all right, so we're going to take these dudes and we're going to create our own manufactured serum that replicates what these guys are able to do. And you could do that with literally anybody. Anybody who's gotten the virus and recovered from it, you could take their antibodies and develop a vaccine. But I think that they just chose Tom Hanks because it's just a fun thought.
It is, but the way you described it, that feels like something Idris should do.
Yeah, 100%.
You speaking?
Yeah.
Now,
I see it now.
Let me hit you with the caveats.
Hit me with some
Kelby. I 100% doing it with Idris Elba. Totally agree, but if you had the choice between the two, does this change your opinion at all? That Tom Hanks is a direct descendant of Abraham Lincoln.
Damn. I am.
And that's a
born,
fact.
Me
That's
and
a
Abe,
fact.
Me and Abe, we got.
He's got Abraham
birthday.
Lincoln's blood coursing through his veins. So this would not only be a vaccine developed from Tom Hanks's blood, but it would be a vaccine developed from Abraham Lincoln's blood.
Right. No, right. So I have a special connection to Abe Lincoln. You know, we have the same birthday. He freed a lot of people that look like me. So I think that I don't know how he's related to Abraham Lincoln because all his kids died. No, I probably still would go with Idris. You know what I mean?
It's sexier with Idris.
Yeah.
It's sexier.
Yeah, it's a little because I would love to have Idris blood in me. You know, that's something.
Oh,
special.
who wouldn't? Oh my God, yeah.
Goodness gracious, Tom cool though. You know, like if I didn't have an option, I'd be like, all right, cool, I got Tom. You know?
Yeah.
But now I got options, so
Need that Idris Elba blood.
yeah.
Another actor who is related to Abraham Lincoln, Casper Van Dien from Starship Troopers.
Seriously, that dude?
Yeah.
That's
that dude.
hysterical. Wow.
So Eddie Murphy is going to be returning to stand-up comedy early in the name of charity. We talked about this several episodes ago, that Eddie Murphy basically said after they do Coming to America 2, which at the time they were shooting, he was going to do Beverly Hills Cop 5, and then he was going to do a stand-up special, and then he was going to retire. So he had this stand-up special that was planned that was it's coming to Netflix. He's going to do a Netflix show, a Netflix special. And that was going to be just it. He was going to do the one thing, and that was going to be it. He was going to do, obviously, some shows leading up to it, because stand-ups, they need to go out and they need to practice. They can't just do a stand-up special out of nowhere. But he was going to do that little circuit, and then he was going to be done. But there is a charity event, a live stream charity event from Byron Allen.
Goddamn right, Byron Allen. Love that dude.
Called Feeding America Comedy Festival. Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, and Billy Crystal are also a part of the star-studded lineup for the festival, which Allen put together via his entertainment studios. Funny or Die is co-producing the charity event, which will raise money for Feeding America. The 3-hour event, and so Eddie Murphy is going to do this show as well. And much earlier than he, planned to return to the stand-up game. And also, he basically made it very clear that he was going to just do this one special, and that was going to be the one thing he did, and that was going to be it. But now, he'll have this thing sort of on the records as well. The 3-hour event won't air on a major network or streaming service, however. Instead, it will be live streamed on Allen Media Group's television network, Comedy.tv, and the Weather Channel, as well as on the free streaming service app Local Now on Saturday, May 9th.
Dope.
Viewers will be encouraged to donate to Feeding America at www.feedingamerica.org.
I love that it's on the Weather Channel.
So if you want to check out Eddie Murphy's triumphant return to stand-up comedy after leaving the game decades ago, completely disappearing from the game, tune into the Weather Channel.
Love it.
This May 9th.
That's genius. I love Byron Allen. That dude, I mean, it's weird because I grew up with Byron Allen because he was the host of this show called Real People, which was basically like a precursor to reality shows of like, here's weird things that people do in their everyday lives. And he was one of like 5 hosts on it. Mm-hmm. And he was like the young guy on it. So he was the young, cool guy. And the fact that he's just this huge, successful, has his own media empire is fascinating. It's unbelievable. I love it. And the fact that it's going to be on the Weather Channel, do it. Yeah. Billionaire. And because, I mean, like, he was like a working stand-up back in like the early 80s. And even I was like, as a young kid, I was like, he's not that funny. But man, to turn it into a billionaire, good at him. Yeah. Good at him. Weather Channel.
And he does nice things for people.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He paid for all those kids graduating college. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts.
But I've never seen the Weather Channel. I know we have it. I'm gonna watch the Weather Channel for the first time.
It's smart because so many people watch the Weather Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're
they're older people who, like Billy Crystal and who else was it? Like the
Chris Rocky's got
the talent spans generations that they're having on the show. So there's somebody for everybody. You've got the classic 80s guys. So you have the Billy Crystals and kind of Chris Rock. He sort of played in both eras. But you have Billy Crystal, you have you have Eddie Murphy, you have Chris Rock for the like old school like 80s brick wall people, and then you have the 90s people, Adam Sandler, also Chris Rock, and then you have the more recent stand-ups for younger people, Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, so on and so forth. So you've got like somebody for everybody. You're playing it on this channel that like a bunch of old people watch. So you have all this huge audience of like older people, like boomers, I guess. And then you have it on the other streaming service for the younger people, so the Gen Xers and then the millennials who are going to want to watch it for the younger people. Mm-hmm. It's going to be available on this website that you can go to. So yeah, it's just covering a lot of bases.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, strange but delightful story.
Wonderful.
The director of Toy Story 4 has been hired to direct an animated Transformers prequel movie. Paramount Pictures and Hasbro have tapped Toy Story 4 director Josh Cooley, who earlier this year won the Best Animated Film Oscar for the sequel, to direct an animated Transformers prequel movie. Though the film is described as a prequel, it will be separate from the live-action movies the studio also produces. Deadline reports that the film has more or less begun production, thanks to work being done remotely, an advantage it has over the live-action side of the franchise. Screenwriters Andrew Barr and Gabriel Ferrari, who previously worked on Ant-Man and the Wasp for Marvel Studios, penned the script for the film, having previously been involved in the writer's room that Paramount set up as a means of exploring the Transformers franchise. So we're getting an animated Transformers prequel movie, which is pretty cool because, I like the Transformers a lot, but I like the actual Transformers a lot. I hate the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I just pure unadulterated garbage. Especially the later ones. Like the first one was not good, but it was something you could maybe say you liked. They just got progressively worse and worse. But I love the Transformers movie, the animated movie from the 80s. Where number one, it was the final film of Orson Welles, who voiced Unicron, the main bad guy of it, and it also produced the hit song I got the power.
What? Wait, hang on.
How does the song go? I blanked on the song. Oh, you got the touch. You got power.
Isn't that from Boogie Nights?
It's from in Boogie Nights. Dirk Diggler sings it, but that song came from the Transformers movie soundtrack. That's what that song came from.
I'm just trying to find it.
The song, I'm pretty sure the song is called "You Got the Touch."
By the way, I love Boogie Nights. It's one of my top 5 movies.
Oh, this is called The Touch. Yeah, Boogie Nights is great.
Boogie Nights is great.
The song's called The Touch.
You got the touch. Okay.
I really don't understand why you don't like the first Michael Bay Transformers. It's so good.
It's terrible. The Touch is a rock song by American singer and guitarist Stan Bush. The song features prominently in the 1986 animated film The Transformers the Movie and appears on the soundtrack album released this year. And then yeah, in Boogie Nights, he that was one of the songs that he was like recording in the recording studio.
That's so funny. All this time I thought it was
like an original song made up for the movie.
Because they did the "He Will Rock You" one.
That one's definitely made up. One's just John C. Reilly and Mark. I almost said Mark Hamill. Mark Wahlberg. They're just improvising.
Yeah.
But The Touch is a real song.
That's genius. I'm so happy I learned that today.
Yeah, so yeah, they're gonna. So that's exciting to me because this is kind of like, you know, in the lineage of that. It's like an animated Transformers theatrical movie, which they haven't made in a long time. So I'll definitely be interested in seeing.
I wonder if they get some big name voices for it.
Definitely. I mean, what is anybody doing?
Right?
They could get Obama to be a voice on this.
Obama would be like, "Hey, I got time. I'm not doing anything. I'll do a day. I'll do a day."
The Decepticons are a scourge on the universe, and they believe in destruction. And the Autobots, we believe in the light of good, and we are going to get the Allspark, and we're going to destroy the scourge of the Decepticons throughout the universe.
Don't need Obama. We got you.
I mean, that's what I said back in 2008, but nobody listened.
No one.
So Disneyland and other theme parks are expected to stay closed until 2021.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know
about this one.
You don't know about this one? Oh, well, because you have the inside scoop.
I don't have inside scoop.
You're insider trading.
But
that's what that means, right?
Why are you putting him on blast? No. You read it, but like no one has said anything. A banking industry person said it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's sort of the cov. That's the hit.
Big cov.
That's the hit of the cov for this story. This is based on one of the big financiers for Disney saying this during a finance call.
Yeah.
With their clients, that they basically expected that Disneyland would be closed until January.
Yeah.
It could be totally off. I know my wife pointed out, because I told her this, and she pointed out that their Disneyland is taking reservations for June still on their website. Yeah.
Well, Disney World itself is like making plans like, okay, how are we going to do this at 50% capacity? And that happening to do that very soon. So there's plans. There's nothing set. Certainly this didn't come from anyone from Disney. I just love that it's from some Swiss banking giant that is stating this.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Relax, he's a good guy.
He's your guy. Is he good? Do you like him?
Yeah, he's a good dude. I like him.
He's a good dude? Okay. Give me his number. Maybe we'll hook up and
relax.
Do some junk bonds.
It sounds like you want to do a little bit more than talking, Kurt.
But yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen how accurate this is until Disney makes an actual statement. But it would make sense if they announced that. Not necessarily that they really would be closed until January, but a lot of companies are way overshooting their estimations of how long they're going to be closed, just in case. And basically, if they keep stringing people along and being like, "We'll reopen in at the end of March," and then at the end of March, it's like we're extending that till the end of April, and then at the end of April, we're extending that to the end. Rather than just stringing people along, they'll just say like, "We're just going to be closed until the end of the year." And if we reopen earlier, it'll just be a pleasant surprise.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it could happen. It could very well, like, they'll be like, no, January, we can't do it. But What is this? What do the Swiss know besides chocolate
That's the only thing. It's the one thing that they know.
and cheese?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Can't forget about cheese.
Can't forget about cheese, man. Oh, that's good stuff.
Every day, every time I'm in the subway, it's like, hit me with that Swiss.
What? Where's that from?
Hit me with the Swiss. It's not. It's from my life, Kirk. In Subway, ordering my sandwich, ordering my foot long. Hit me with the Swiss.
Damn.
I thought you were referencing a song.
No. Hit me with the Swiss in the Subway. Got those Gary V K-Swiss on my feet.
Damn.
Yeah. So we'll see. They also speculate that Universal Studios, Hollywood and Orlando might be closed throughout the year as well. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna do our regular segment. Can you go for that?
Wait, Andrew, you want to do your thing?
Yes. Thank you.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we're back. And now we're going to do our regular segment where we talk about rumors and unsubstantiated stories going on in the world of nostalgia and give our opinions on whether we think it's a good idea or not. That segment is called
Can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Can you go for that? Can you go for that?
Did you miss Tyler on that?
I did. I definitely missed an offbeat, distracting, like noise in my ear, like constantly threatening to throw me off.
You just summed up Tyler's existence.
Yeah, that's just him as a person.
Yeah, I gotta fight. Yeah. Send Theo.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have a couple stories here. And like I mentioned on the last episode, when we have the stories to talk about, we'll talk about them. Whenever there's no stories, because obviously, announcements of new things or rumors is probably gonna, it's gonna be slower in general, while things are shut down. So when we don't have any stories to talk about, we're gonna do our own "Can you go for that?" and we're gonna pitch each other ideas, and we're gonna give our opinions on whether we think the ideas are good or not. We did it last week. I think it was a rousing success.
Yeah.
I think we've already got Kirk's cop. What was it?
Cop bar.
We already got Kirk's cop bar idea greenlit by CBS.
Yeah.
You gotta get all cut.
Yeah.
Hey, is Lou back?
Nah. Don't anger Andrew.
No, never. So the first story. So Sebastian Stan, who you might all know as Bucky from the Marvel films, he wants to play Dracula in a Blumhouse Universal monster movie, Marvel movie. Blah 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 blah. He's lobbying to next take on the role of one of history's most iconic villains, as the actor has offered to play Count Dracula in the vampire's upcoming movie from Blumhouse. Starting with Leigh Whannell's take on The Invisible Man this year, Blumhouse has taken the reins of Universal's movie monsters with plans to reboot each of the classic villains with all new movies. As The Invisible Man turned out to be a big success, the studio is moving forward with its other projects, which includes hiring Karen Kusama to direct a new Dracula movie. Speaking with The Hollywood Reporter this week, Stan revealed he's already let Kusama know he's available, but it also appears production delays in Hollywood could delay the casting process. He said, I already emailed her about that. I said, I'm from Romania, right? And she goes, yes, it's very early, and there's a freeze on movie productions right now. Hopefully we'll see you in 4 years.
In 4 years.
So, Sebastian Stan as Dracula.
I can go for that. Sure. It took me a second because I didn't remember who Sebastian Stan was, but once you said Bucky, I was like, oh yeah, I can see it. He's got a look. He can pull off a vampire look. So sure, why not? I mean, I don't know what else he's been in besides Bucky, but I like him as Bucky. So
I kind of forget. I'm not a huge Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
So I kind of forget the stuff he's been in. I've definitely seen him in other things. I definitely knew of him and had seen him in things before he was Bucky.
Yeah.
Just vaguely. No but I don't. I kind of just I'm drawing a blank. He's not in anything big that I'm just yeah, he's this or whatever.
But for a Blumhouse movie on that level, totally, I can go for that.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't seen The Invisible Man. I still want to see it, but from all I've heard, it's great, and I love Lee Whannell. Mm-hmm. So I have high expectations for it. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it.
Interesting. He's in some movies that I've seen and had no clue that he was in. Yeah, I could definitely go for that. He has the look, and he's a good actor. Based off of his performance in the Captain America and Avengers movies, and he has the right look for it. So yeah.
I mean, I can go for that as well. The key tenet for, I mean, there's a lot of different depictions of Dracula in pop culture. I mean, the one that's most iconic, obviously, is Bela Lugosi as. Well, there's two of the most iconic depictions of Dracula. There's Bela Lugosi as Dracula from the original 1930s Universal Dracula movies, and then there is kind of as a secondary there is the visual of the Nosferatu, which isn't even technically Dracula, because they basically wanted to make a Dracula movie, but they couldn't get the rights to it, so they just made a Dracula-like movie, where they just changed the name. But it's Dracula, and that's the one that's the more kind of ugly, monstrous looking Dracula, and the Bela Lugosi Dracula is, those movies are great, but they're not necessarily accurate to the book or what what Dracula really was supposed to be. And then in the 90s you had the Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, and that was going for trying to be more like what Dracula really was in the book, which was he starts out as this ugly, ancient-looking, disgusting thing, and then slowly, as he feeds off of the youth and the life energy of Jonathan Harker, he gets younger and more handsome. There's recently been another adaptation of Dracula, which we talked about on the podcast. We watched the trailer for it. It was a BBC adaptation of Dracula. The one where Tyler got weirdly angry about the fact that because the people who made it also made Sherlock, and I liked Sherlock, that I would also automatically like this, and he just got weird. He got weirdly argumentative about it.
This is why we miss Tyler.
So there was that one, and they once again went for the more kind of accurate depiction of Dracula, where he just starts out as this ugly, decrepit creature, and then as he feeds off of Jonathan Harker, he gets younger and more handsome and more charming. So that's pretty much what Dracula is. If you really want to go for an accurate Dracula, you get somebody who's just very classically handsome, very charming, very charismatic, and then you depict him as, you use makeup and prosthetics to make them up into this ugly creature that slowly gets younger and more handsome as time goes on. And I think that Sebastian Stan could totally pull that off. He's got the look, I think.
He does have the look. Great.
I don't necessarily think he has the Bela Lugosi Dracula look to him. But by all accounts, I feel like this Blumhouse adaptation of it is going to be like a more realistic approach to it. So I totally see Sebastian Stan fitting in that sort of paradigm. And then our second story, Marvel may do an R-rated Punisher movie with Jon Bernthal. There's been a lot of talk about Daredevil hopefully coming back to the MCU following Netflix clearing house of its Marvel content due to him being a good fit for the franchise. The Punisher, meanwhile, is not a character you could easily drop into, say, a Marvel's or an Avengers movie and have him team up with Rocket and Groot. Instead, the studio would have to be willing to commit to keep the mature tone of the series to make sure it works. Thankfully, we're hearing that's exactly what they're planning on doing. Sources say that Jon Bernthal's Punisher may get his own R-rated film. The studio is currently considering the option, given that they're already beginning to make R-rated movies in the form of Deadpool 3 and Blade. So, a feature-length R-rated Punisher movie, technically in the MCU, but sort of separate from it, with Jon Bernthal returning as the Punisher.
I wish there was something more than I can go for that. Because I can go for that way hard. I like Jon Bernthal. I like him as an actor in what he does, which is the stuff he does is all like badass Punisher thing. And that's all he's ever really, you've seen him do. And he's great at it. And I watched The Punisher on Netflix. I liked the first season. Second season was a little boring, but it had like the best first episode I'd ever seen of just raw, brutal fighting. It was great. So if they're going to just be like Jon Bernthal kicking ass for 90 minutes, sign me up. I will be there. I can't go for that.
That's an interesting one. I can go for that, but I think it'll be weird for the brand. I think it would be weird for Marvel in general, because I guess maybe it's because we never really seen them niche their movies. You know, they try to make things for people 13 and up or so. So I guess this would be a first attempt at seeing if they got those kind of chops, if they got 18 and up skills. So yeah, sure.
It's hard for me to say one way or the other. I kind of want to say I can't go for that, but my I can't go for that is not because I think that that's a bad idea or because I don't like him as the Punisher or anything like that. Number one, I never really watched any of these shows, so I didn't watch The Punisher on Netflix. I only watched like 2 or 3 episodes of Daredevil. So I never even saw this version of the Punisher. I've seen a clip from the movie. I think I've seen like the clip that you're referring to, Kirk. I saw some like really brutal fight
from the
scene.
show?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fight scenes are way brutal. And Jon Bernthal is like really good at fight scenes. He's really good at being angry and beating up people.
Yeah. I've seen the other Punisher movies. I've seen the Punisher with Thomas Jane, and I've seen
that one.
Yeah, I've seen Punisher Warzone.
Is that Dolph Lundgren?
No, it's that. I mean, I've seen that version of the Punisher as well, the '80s Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. But Punisher Warzone was like a movie that came out after the Thomas Jane one that had it was kind of like a weird like kind of sequel, but like kind of not sequel, and forgetting his name. Ray Stevenson was the Punisher.
Oh, okay.
He was Frank Castle. I've seen those movies. I didn't see this. I've seen clips from it. I like John Bernthal as an actor, even though I really haven't. There's not a whole lot with him in it that I really love or care for. I thought he was great in Wolf of Wall Street. I've never liked The Walking Dead. I've seen him in other things here and there. He's not like my favorite standout actor of all time, but I think he's good. However, I mean, number one, I haven't seen them, so I can't really give much of an opinion on whether I want a movie version to exist. But number two, I just don't really like or care about the Punisher that much. The Punisher is just another kind of overrated comic book character that kind of has this weird fandom of people because he's like one of the more edgy characters, but by far not very interesting to me. So I don't know. I can't go for that. A soft I can't go for that.
All right.
Did we talk about the name is super familiar, so I'm guessing we did talk about it. Adam Schlesinger?
We did. We talked about it
Okay.
2 episodes ago.
Okay. The only reason why I'm bringing it up is because as I was looking up John Bernthal so I can get like a clear look at his face, I realized that they're cousins.
Really?
What?
That's insane. Yeah, I mean he passed away. We talked about it.
That's it, yeah.
That's insane.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah. Small
Well, there you
world.
go.
Small
The more
city.
you know. Yeah, so that's it. That has been another rendition of
Can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Can you go for that? Can you go for that?
Quarantine Edition. No, this isn't Quarantine Edition. This is regular edition. Forget what I said.
Oh,
Quarantine Edition
this is
when
not
we're-
regular
when we're-
times?
Yeah, Quarantine Edition is when we're pitching.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I get it.
I mean, this whole it's confusing. It's conflicting branding because this is the Quarantine Edition of Nostalgicast,
Yes.
but then within that, the Can You Go For That where we pitch ideas is the Quarantine Edition of Can You Go For That. But then the one where we're just talking about rumors is the regular edition of Can You Go For That. It's a mess.
I get it. All right.
Kind of like what we're living in now.
Yes. Last couple stories before we wrap up. First one, so kids in Japan are getting free Super Nintendos. The Japan Retro Gaming Association is giving away 100 free Super Nintendos, or Super Famicoms, as they're called in Japan, to children of Japan to encourage them to stay inside. So they have this sort of thing that they're doing where they have 100 Super Nintendos, actual Super Nintendos, not like a Super Nintendo Classic or some like newer machine. These are like actual real Super Famicoms from the 90s, and they're giving them away to 100 kids as part of a promotion to encourage kids to stay inside.
Huh. I mean, yeah.
And
Yes. No.
it's just now
I mean-
it's now hitting me how bizarre and surreal this whole thing is, because
Yeah.
for decades and decades, you know, the thing that people are always the campaigns that organizations are always running is encouraging kids to go outside. Throughout my childhood in the 90s, throughout the 2000s, people are always running these campaigns and these advertising campaigns of like encouraging kids to go outside and play with other kids and play baseball and don't just sit inside and play video games all day. And now these organizations are like, stay inside, don't go outside. It's crazy. It's very surreal.
Just play video games. Play all the video games. Just don't go outside. That's
Yeah.
very
I mean,
weird.
It's so
Yesterday,
strange.
I went to Target and they had a board outside that said we are sold out of hand sanitizer, Lysol, and Nintendo Switch. And I was like, what a weird, what a weird list. But okay, I didn't come here for any of that. So yeah,
strange.
I guess.
You're like,
you
oh,
know,
I was gonna buy like 5 Switches.
yeah. Well, they were sold out of jump ropes too. So I guess people are finding out different ways to shed them pounds. Have you, by the way, gained any the quarantine 15?
No, I've lost a little weight, not significant amount, but I've lost a little weight because my wife and I regularly exercise. We do Body Project.
Ooh, that sounds naughty.
Yeah,
Which is some random exercise routine thing that we found or that she found on YouTube. That's just some British guy yelling at you.
Sick.
Perfect.
But I haven't lost like a significant amount of weight. Like I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm like the pounds are flying off. I've lost a couple pounds. Mostly I would say it's negligible. I feel like I've just stayed around the same weight.
I know Kirk. I ain't even gonna ask Kirk because I know Kirk be working out 4 times a day.
I mean, yeah, I haven't changed it. Nothing's really changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are buying. They're buying a lot of hand sanitizer. What were the things you said that the sign said they were out of?
It said Lysol, hand sanitizer, and Nintendo Switches.
Yeah, so they're out of the Lysol, the hand sanitizer, because people were obsessed with cleaning. They're out of Nintendo Switches because people are buying those to stay inside and play, and then they're out of the jump ropes because everyone's hanging themselves. This last story. Thank you. Kirk is slow clapping me with the Skype emojis.
That was a good one.
It's the last story, and my favorite story, maybe my favorite story in the whole history of this show. I love it so much.
Yeah, this is pretty great.
A new book from a celebrity photographer says that recounts a story where Eddie Van Halen once put a gun to Limp Bizkit frontman Fred Durst's head. So
bizarre.
A friendly jam session between Eddie Van Halen and Limp Bizkit reportedly wound up with the guitar icon putting a gun to Fred Durst's head in 2001. And he's not a photographer; he's a video director. In his new photo book, Eruption in the Canyon, 212 Days and Nights with the Genius of Eddie Van Halen, Andrew Bennett presents pictures and anecdotes from the period he spent filming Van Halen at work in their studio between 2004 and 2007. The incident with Durst allegedly took place after guitarist Wes Borland had quit Limp Bizkit and the band held auditions to find a replacement. Durst and Eddie Van Halen were introduced at a party where a record label executive suggested they work together. Bennett said Durst responded, "That would be hilarious. The greatest guitar player ever plays with the worst band ever." And if you remember back in the day, that was kind of Limp Bizkit's whole thing. Their whole like vibe was that they just said they talked about how they were the worst band, and their official merchandise said like Limp Bizkit sucks and all this stuff, which was obviously built out of a profound level of insecurity. But they played it off like this sort of like charming aloofness of like acknowledging that they sucked. But Van Halen responded with, "Screw it, let's jam." The session went ahead at a house in Beverly Hills, but Van Halen, who's not a fan of weed, left abruptly after people began smoking it, leaving guitars, amps, and other equipment behind. Bennett said afterward the guitarist described the jam as like being a scholar amongst kindergarteners. Which, as a side note, as funny as the story is and is maybe as validated or vindicated as Van Halen might have been, not only does that sound like a super snobby thing to say, but notoriously Eddie Van Halen is sort of known as kind of being an asshole behind the scenes.
Oh, 100%. Like the whole thing about the David Lee Roth leaving the band, originally you thought, oh, it's because Dave's crazy and he's just a jerk. And it's like, no, it's because he couldn't stand being with Van Halen. He couldn't stand being with Eddie Van Halen because Eddie Van Halen was an asshole.
Yeah, he's one of the music industry's just most notorious, like, behind the scenes douchebags. But he's a great guitarist, and I'm sure you don't agree with this, Kirk, but I love Van Halen.
I love Van Halen.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Your thing
I contain multitudes.
No, that's fine. If you contain multitudes, God bless you. But your thing about how you don't like guitar music or classic rock doesn't exist. There are so many exceptions to it that it's not even a thing.
No, because I only really like the hits. And the majority of classic rock I really don't like. It's more rare occasions that I like. Like I like Led Zeppelin, but only the hits, and I like Van Halen, but only the hits. That's all. It's not that complicated.
That makes sense. It makes sense. I understand it. But what doesn't make sense is the man doesn't like ranch.
And that makes sense too. That's just me being classy.
I hate all of the marshmallows and Lucky Charms, except I like the pot of gold. That's good. I like the hearts. I love the stars. I like the clovers. I like the blue moons. Yeah. Other than that, I hate all the marshmallows and Lucky Charms.
I love this comparison, but it's faulty because all those marshmallows taste the same.
I'm even okay with the rainbows.
Well, the rainbows are delightful.
But other than that, I hate all of the marshmallows and Lucky Charms.
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. It's by law you gotta enjoy some Van Halen. In the '80s, come on. But this story, please continue.
Yes. So they were jamming, or they started to jam. He brought over all his equipment, and then people started smoking weed, and then he apparently just has this hard and fast aversion to it. So he just left, and he left in such a huff that he just left all of his equipment there. So the following day, Van Halen contacted Durst to recover his gear, according to Bennett. The guitarist was still upset about the experience, and after not hearing back from Durst after 24 hours, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Eddie once bought an assault vehicle from a military auction, Bennett writes. It has a Shine gun mount on the back and is not legal. Eddie drove that assault vehicle through L.A. into Beverly Hills, then parked and left it running on the front lawn of the house Limp Bizkit was rehearsing in. He got out wearing no shirt, his hair in a samurai bun on top of his head, his jeans held up with a strand of rope, and combat boots held together by duct tape, and he had a gun in his hand. The asshole never answered the door, Bennett recalled Van Halen explaining. I put my gun to that stupid red hat of his, and I said, "Where's my shit, motherfucker?" That guy just turned in to one of his employees and starts yelling at him to grab his stuff. Eddie Van Halen stood on the front lawn of the residential home in Beverly Hills in broad daylight, holding a gun at Fred Durst as he went back and forth from the house to the assault vehicle, lugging amps and guitars. Bennett said that the Van Halen Limp Bizkit summit remains a head-scratcher to this day. Katy Perry could join Slipknot, and I would be less shocked.
It's a great story. It's funny, too, because on paper, Eddie Van Halen is a fucking asshole in this scenario. Like, what a dick. But because it's against Fred Durst, you kind of go, well, I can kind of see it. You don't hate him that much. Like, if it was like, I don't know, what if he was like jamming with Train? And he did this, you'd be like, what a jerk. Yeah, what a complete psycho. But it's Limp Bizkit, you go, oh, well, kind of makes sense. I see it.
Yeah, there's no hero in this story.
We're all lesser for having this happen.
It's like a spaghetti western.
It's the more I think about it, I read this in the outline and it was really funny. Now it's just getting sadder and sadder.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming a sad story. Just the more I think about it.
I mean, sometimes you got to get a gun put to your head. I mean, that's how I see it.
Just to learn a few things.
I mean, you know, just to keep you on your toes, man. Keep you 10 toes down. I mean, some people get elevated for no reason. Put the gun to his head, man. That's it.
Mindset.
Man.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he was not messing around.
Yeah.
No, he was not.
Yeah, I love that story so much.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
insane, and I can't believe I've never heard of it before. I can't believe that this story
Right?
just never was circulated.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because if Eddie Van Halen never told it, it doesn't seem like something that Limp Bizkit would ever want to tell, because it just makes them
Right.
seem like such. It makes number one, it doesn't reflect well on them because of the fact that they sort of like just didn't give him his stuff back or whatever, and also it just makes them seem like just like, you know, like punks.
Yeah.
So if Eddie Van Halen never told anybody, it makes sense that they wouldn't want to tell anybody. So it makes sense why this story would have just gone untold for all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. Love that story. If you liked that story and you like this show and you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe. If you have a friend you think might enjoy the show, then share it with them. If you want to keep up to date with the podcast as well as all of the nostalgia content we put on a daily basis, you can follow our Facebook page, the official Nostalgia Facebook page on Facebook. You just search Nostalgia, and that's us. You can join our Facebook group, the Nostalgia Facebook group. You can also follow us on Instagram at Nostalgia. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you want to be read during the podcast, you can email us at nostalgicastpod@gmail.com. Otherwise, you know, just stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for listening.
So long.